What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Michaela Shaw. I'm the owner of Dope Brand Apparel, and today we're going to talk about fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown is actually the root of anxiety, which I think is something that we as entrepreneurs or we just as people need to dive into. I heard this quote by Iyanla, and she said there's only two emotions that actually matter. That's fear and that's love, right? And they matter because when you operate in one, you're not able to operate in the other. So usually one has more control. And so you hear people say all the time that they have anxiety about this, or they have, anxiety about issues or experiences or things that they want to do, things that they want to accomplish. And I wanted to shed light on anxiety because I wanted you to know where it actually comes from. It actually comes from fear. I wanted to take you guys back to an experience that I had a couple of months ago. I went to Costa Rica with a good friend of mine, and I had a blast. I had a great time, but it came to a point where we decided to go on different excursions and things like that. And one of the things that we decided to do was go ziplining. Now, if anybody know me, I am extremely afraid of heights, okay? Heights, okay? I don't even ride roller coasters. I don't find them enjoyable. So for me to go ziplining, especially in another country, it was a big thing for me. There were a few things after I experienced it that God really dealt with me about and that I just wanted to share with you guys here on this channel. There was a bus, right, that took us to the actual, to the highest point of the mountain, to where we actually start to zip line. Before we got to the highest point, which the young lady was telling us, she was going over the excursion details. She was telling us what we could expect, some precautions that we should take. And the highest that we went up was about 8 stories in the air. It may not sound like a lot, but it was pretty tall. Honestly, I just threw 8 out there. I can't remember. I feel like it was a bit taller. Before we got to the highest mountain, they took us to other mountains before that. We started at a point and we started to actually gradually, gradually increase the height. Whenever we get to a point in our life where we're about to take a huge leap, whether that's where we're chasing our dreams, starting a business, or just really uprooting ourselves from whatever environment we've been in for so long. Whenever we're about to take that huge step, understand that God has already prepared us. And the thing about this though, is we all rode up it gets to the point where we're going to the highest mountain, because the only way down is to zip line back down or to stay in the bus and they'll take you back down. Now, going up this mountain was already creepy. It was like one of those, he had to go really slow because of the curves on the mountain. And it was one of those situations where one wrong turn, like, we all would have been goners. You know what I'm saying? Like, the young lady decided that she wasn't going to do it. And her friends were saying, you might as well, it's scary to go back down that way than just going ahead and zip lining. And when he said that, I don't know what it was specifically, but something spiritually was happening there. You know what I mean? It wasn't just, you ever had an experience in the natural, but you know that God's trying to tell you something spiritually? And God is trying to tell us that it's way more scarier staying stagnant. It's way more scary to go back down to where you were than to actually take that leap of faith and to go to where you could be, okay? When you have your mind set on something, you can't let fear creep in and take away the blessing on the other side of that fear, if that makes sense. Can't backtrack. Whenever you get to a point in your life where you're wanting different things, you're moving different, your mindset is different, that's a clear indication of God doing a work in your life. It's like all of a sudden you wake up and the things that you used to want, you don't want them anymore. The things that you used to value, you don't value them anymore. You have outgrown the space that you're in. Period. You have outgrown the space that you're in. And that's what I want to encourage you and tell you on today. You have outgrown the space that you're in. Don't let fear of failure, fear of not knowing if something will work, keep you from reaping the harvest. Because what's funny about fear of the unknown, is that you're fearful of things that probably will never ever happen. And that's how God broke it down to me on the bus. I've been fearful of things that'll never happen. The Bible tells us not to lean on our own understanding. Because when we lean on our own understanding, we're operating in our own strength. And so the things that we see causes us to be weak in our mindsets, weak in other aspects of our life. Fear is going to try to come up. And fear doesn't just come alone. Fear comes with a purpose of preventing you from reaching your destiny and from reaching your own purpose. The Bible also says, cast down all vain imaginations that exalt itself. You got to cast those fearful thoughts down, regardless of what it is that you're trying to do with your life, especially when you're uprooting yourself from your environment. What's hard isn't actually moving towards purpose. What makes it hard is the fact that where you come from is pulling on you. What you've been doing is pulling on you. That's what makes it hard. I just want you to know where that anxiety comes from. I want you to understand that everything has a root. If it doesn't align with what God says about you, you have to cast it down. Try not to have so much anxiety about things that probably never happen. So I just want to keep you encouraged today. Take that step. You're going to make mistakes. There's going to be failures along your business. There are things that I've done that I thought would turn out a certain way. But we also talk about that here at Dope Brand Apparel, that it's important to be attached to the process and not the outcome. Because things are going to happen, things are going to come up. The failure isn't you actually falling. The failure is when you fall and you don't get back up. One thing as scientists, what I've learned in my years of education as being a scientist, that we love failure. That's one thing I'm very appreciative of. It taught me that failure isn't a bad thing. Even the word of God says all things work. So that means complicated things, that means hurtful things, that means failure. It works for your good, but you got to tap into it. If you are in kingdom, you don't have to be unsure about anything. Yeah. See you guys next week.